It's time to make sports talk great again with Curt and Steve Deace.
Greetings. Welcome to The Blaze, where each and every day we do our very best to simply talk sports. I am Steve Deace. He is World Series champion and future Hall of Famer Curt Schilling. We put 25 minutes on the clock, get to as many of the day's sports topics as we possibly can. Curt, are you ready to go, brother?
I'm ready to go.
So here's how this one works. It's the true-false episode. We have 12 of the current debates raging in sports. We're each going to give a true-false answer to the current hot take on each of them, beginning right now. All right, hot take number one, true or false? Zion Williamson not playing in his home finale last night against Wake Forest means he's not coming back to Duke basketball. True or false, Curt?
Nah, you started off with a softball. Anybody that is surprised that he's not coming back is not paying attention. There's no chance he's coming back to Duke. None.
You think
None.
so? Mike Krzyzewski saying last night he's not going to play against North Carolina this weekend either, but that they expect him back for the ACC tournament. You really believe they're going to bring him back after not playing for 3 weeks, and then they're going to put him in a tournament that he may have to play 3 days in a row? Would do you think they would do that? I'm asking.
He's not coming back. Right? That would be the reason why if he's not coming back. He's not coming back in something. Not that you look at like this, but if he's not coming back and he gets hurt coming back, the only chance you have of him coming back would be if he got seriously hurt and was passed up at the top of the draft, which is not going to happen.
So looking at this, you know what? I think it's likely it's more true than false, and here's why. So you got to put forth then I think a plausible theory as to what Mike Krzyzewski is saying, why he would have a rationale to be dishonest. Okay, because that's really, if you're saying that this is true, and you've got to reconcile that with Krzyzewski's comments last night, then what you are effectively saying is Mike Krzyzewski is lying. Okay, and so you have to have I think a plausible reason, a motivation as to why he would do that, and here's what it is. The NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, if they believe Zion Williamson is going to come back, then they essentially look at the last couple of weeks where Duke last night barely beat the worst team in the ACC, Wake Forest at home. Lost on the road at Virginia Tech, who's a pretty good team, but Virginia Tech didn't have its best player either. North Carolina went into their gym, shot 2 for 20 from 3, and still won by like 25.
All right,
okay?
I got to interrupt you real quick.
Yep.
Is the question whether he's coming back this season or next year?
No, I mean this season.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at this as like this is like a no-brainer. That's why I was thinking it was such a simple question. He is coming back to play in the tournament.
You think he will play in the tournament?
Yes,
okay.
yes, yeah, I do. I'm just realizing as you're talking, I'm thinking, wait a minute. Steve knows he's not coming back to Duke next year.
No, that's exactly why I'm actually going to stick with my answer that I'm going to take the contrarian view, and I think that what you're seeing Duke do, the way the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee works, is if you've got the injured player coming back or after he comes back, they essentially erase everything that happened while he was gone. Okay, and so I think that this is projection. I think him not playing last night, even for 5 or 10 minutes in the last home game, not playing against North Carolina. So now he's not going to play in either North Carolina game. I doubt you put him in the ACC tournament where he had to play 3 games in a row. Right. I think that they are just dangling this out there to try and keep their hold on a number 1 seed. That's my answer. That he won't play again this season. I hope I'm wrong, by the way, but okay. That's my prediction.
All right.
Number 2. There is a better chance Cliff Kingsbury will be a successful coach with Curt's Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray at quarterback than Josh Rosen. Do you think that's true or false, Curt?
No, false.
Why?
No, I just don't. I think the player that they pick. Here's I hadn't really thought about this option last night, but I think the bigger play here is if you have a game-changing number 1 pick immediately on defense, on offense. There's a ton of players this year in the draft. Or do the Cardinals make a trade down because they want a specific guy who's not the top player and like a Belichick get 3 or 4 picks? Is somebody willing? What's the price people are willing to pay? Let me ask you this. I don't believe it's true, but let me ask you, do you think another team values a player in this draft badly enough to trade up to the number one spot?
Yeah, you've seen more of this in recent years. Jared Goff and Carson Wentz were both traded up for in the number one spot. You've seen more of this since they brought in the rookie salary cap, and it's not as cost prohibitive from a salary cap perspective. Now it is from a draft pick perspective. You want to trade into that number one slot. Let's say Jacksonville looks like they're out of the quarterback market. Looks like they're going to sign Nick Foles next week when free agency starts. Let's say the Giants at pick number 6 to move up to number 1. It's going to cost them this year and next year's number 1 to do that. Okay. Yeah.
And so now you're the Cardinals. You're picking 6. You're going to get the player you wanted anyway. If you're willing to trade down, and you've got an extra number 1, they'll be a better team. I think they'll have a better roster without Kyler Murray than with him.
Well, that's a separate question, and you might have a good point where that's concerned. As to this proposition, I don't think it's even debatable that it's true. Josh Rosen is the profile of every quarterback that has ever failed out of the NFL draft. They always look like him. Out of central casting, didn't win a lot, won a lot in college, but he wasn't considered the leadership guy like a Ryan Leaf, or didn't win a lot in college, but he just has every measurable you could want. He is the profile of every guy that's ever failed. All right. And to me, I think the biggest mistake you could make if you're going to go get this college coach with a mediocre record, because you believe in his funky offense that much that you think you see the NFL evolving this way. And so you're going to go all in to saddle him with a quarterback that he didn't draft, that he didn't scout. You already fired a coach after just 1 year.
Oh, true.
Okay?
Yeah.
So to me, if you're going to go all in with Cliff Kingsbury, then give him everything you need. He needs to be successful. And his chance in his system to be successful with Kyler Murray is much greater than it is with Josh Rosen. I don't even think it's a debatable point. Now, as to whether they put overall a better roster if they followed your mode, I think that's absolutely an arguable point. Sure. But I think in the end, Josh Rosen isn't a fit temperamentally, skill set wise for who Cliff Kingsbury is, what he wants to be. The other factor you have is Josh Rosen's immaturity and everything else. And you got a coach who's old, who's basically his older brother. Yeah, I think you put the guy. Here's the thing with Kyler Murray. This is where I think them and the coach having the same agent matters as well, because they both have a vested interest in finding a way to be as successful as possible together. They're financially evenly staked in this relationship.
Yeah, but that's not. I think every coach and quarterback is in that same boat in a sense that they're both in it for the financial stake and both their benefits. Basically, in a roundabout way, you're saying that this guy's not a very good coach in the sense that he can't win unless he has his specific player.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
And the Arizona Cardinals made this choice. Yeah. So if you're going to make the choice, to me, you go all in with it then. All right?
But if you made a bad choice, do you follow it up with another bad choice?
Well, they just did that. They fired a coach after 1 year and got a guy that was a mediocre college coach.
So then if they're going to
his own alma mater fired him, guys.
If they're going to be the Arizona Stupids, then yeah, okay. They're going to keep making mistake on mistake.
Number 3, true or false, the Los Angeles Lakers will not make the NBA playoffs. What say you, Mr. Schilling?
True. We're starting to see cracks in the armor of a guy who claimed to be the greatest player that's ever lived. He's not. I think he's one of the 3 or 4 greatest players that ever lived. But when you talk about the NBA and greatest of all time, for me that means championships and winning. And this guy has proven the last year that he didn't go to L.A. for any basketball reasons, which is fine and his choice. But I've seen stuff in the last couple of weeks that makes me just laugh at the thought that you would compare this guy to Michael Jordan.
What are they out? They're out 5 games out of the playoff spot with 17 games to go.
So, and their clubhouse is not coming together.
No, it's he's getting apart. and now he's making more news for bouncing balls in the middle of the pregame show and knocking their set off than he is for what he's doing on the court. He's making mental errors with inbounding. The idea that a guy of his stature not inbounding the ball, it would be the equivalent of a pitcher of your stature going out there and forgetting where the mound is. Okay, that's just where you're just mentally checked out at that point. Yep. Okay,
and the stuff that's happening is embarrassing.
And that's why I don't think he's one of the. Do you remember Magic Johnson sulking? Do you remember Michael Jordan sulking.
right.
Do you remember
But
Bill Russell sulking? Hell, Kobe Bryant sulking. I don't remember any of this.
They didn't lose titles, and when they did lose titles, they lost to another one of the great. Like when Johnson lost, he lost to Bird. When Bird lost, he lost to Johnson. When Jabbar lost, he lost to Parrish. I don't look at LeBron is not that guy anymore, and he's becoming less and I think a lot of people that have taken the LeBron route to make that super team are possibly regretting letting him decide their careers. So,
number 4. Let's get to your sport. Fangraphs projection of the Indians winning the American League Central by at least 20 games is correct. True or false?
Yeah, I would take the over on that. Yeah, true.
Wow.
The only team that I can think of that I think might put a challenge to them in that division would be the White Sox.
So we're basically saying the Indians are the 83 White Sox who won the division by 20 games. They're the only team over 500 in that division that year. But with Lamar Hoyt and Greg Luzinski and those guys and Ron Kittle. How about me pulling those names out? Are you impressed?
I am because I played with Ron Kittle.
But then they weren't really a postseason factor. They were just...
No, they weren't. But the Indians are. And I'm caveating that like I caveat everything. And everything has to do with them getting out of spring training healthy.
Okay. Next from Fangraphs, their projection that the Brewers go from first to worst in the National League Central is correct. True or false?
False.
By the way, I'm going to take the true on the previous one because I just don't think anybody else is a carbon-based life form in that division. But what about this one?
This one's this makes me question a little bit Fangraphs methodology in the sense when you look at this division. They're worse than the Reds. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think the Reds got better this winter.
I agree. Yeah.
But they didn't get Milwaukee better.
Yeah. How did Milwaukee get substantively worse? That they're worse than the Reds? How did that happen?
Exactly right. I think that they're questioning whether Counsell's as good as he is. I got to tell you this: my Arizona Cardinal pick probably in baseball this year is going to be the Pirates. I think they're going to be a little bit better than people think this year. And the player to watch this year is James.
Fangraphs agrees with you. That's one of the reasons why they have the Brewers worst to first. They think the Cubs will still be there. They think they like the Cardinals like you do, and they think the Pirates will be kind of this year's, Atlanta Braves, or maybe Milwaukee Brewers, the team that kind of ripens at the same time. And their methodology says someone has to suffer as a result of that, and so that makes the Brewers the odd team out. But you disagree.
I disagree.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree as well, and I also don't know that I think one thing I don't know why I've had a pretty good record in recent years of whether it was the Royals or the Braves last year of having a feel for who the next team is. I don't know. Maybe I'll feel differently when we get through spring training. I don't know that I'm quite feeling the Pirates, and a lot of it has to do with this division, with how good I think the Cubs and the Cardinals are going to be, and I think the Brewers still are. And you're going to play all of those teams 19 times.
Yep.
I think that's a factor. Let's get to number 6. The XFL will outlast the Alliance for American Football. True or false?
No way.
No way. Why do you think? Why do you think this is false?
Because I don't think the AAF has the backing of the NFL, and there's nothing about the XFL that the NFL is going to like. And what you saw, I mean, when they $250 million, they stepped in this week. They're going to make the AAF work. They're going to eventually set it up as a minor league. It's the one thing that football, I think owners are trying to minimize risk. You minimize risk by introducing minor leagues and having these guys playing before you actually draft them or sign them, or it just makes too much sense. And I think they're going to do everything they can. I don't doubt Vince McMahon and his business acumen, but the fact of the matter is the NFL is going to make sure this stays around.
You are correct. Because first of all, if you look at the way the AAF came about, it came about as an answer to the XFL. Right. Coming back. And Vince McMahon essentially divesting $100 million of his own stock in WWE in order to liquefy the XFL right away, showed right away putting $100 million of his own money behind something. He's serious about it this time. The announcement that he put out about patriotism and things like that, when he did the video announcement announcing the league, and then they turn around and call this the AAF, and then they make it so they put this thing together on the fly so it can start the very next season without even a year of a ramp up like the XFL is doing. That is indicative of the fact that the NFL just will, and getting Bill Polian and a lot of ex-name some big names in the NFL. Dick Ebersol's kid, one of the pioneers in sports media. His son Charlie is the commissioner of the league.
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt. It just shows you the stupidity of the NFL. The XFL is not going to take away ratings. The NFL is what it is.
That's not what they're concerned about. What they're concerned about. The NFL is concerned about the XFL the way Fox News is concerned about the Blaze. Here's what I mean by that. That we're probably never going to overtake them in terms of market share, because they're the pre-existing brand. They've got 20 years of satellite distribution in every major cable network. But the concern, and that's why Fox goes out and starts something like Fox Nation, their own online only entity. The concern is that something attacks you competitively from the right enough, all right, that it impacts your ability to solely own that space, which is the number one reason you're the only people seen as giving as broadcasting to an audience the rest of your competitors have ignored. That's what they're concerned about, all right? And that's what the XFL could do. You start losing that 17% of people that you lost in the ratings over the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, and they take 17% of that away from you, and suddenly now you don't have all the leverage with every carrier. They still can't get the NFL Network on every distribution platform. All right. That's what they are concerned about. It is that they own this space and they don't want to see Vince McMahon take 10 or 15% of their market share away, because that's a huge amount of their leverage, is the fact that they're that only game in town. That's what they're concerned about. And that's why they will find they've got a list of people who want to own NFL teams, who whenever this league needs liquid will line up to give them another $250 million as essentially a personal seat license to own a team in the NFL one day. Right. All right. So I'm with you on that. At best, the XFL might take enough of a market share that they may force a merger, but the AAF will last as long as Vince McMahon is interested in doing this. And then I could see if Vince McMahon walks away, I could see the AAF going away the very next year. I could see that too. Yeah. Okay. True or false? Yeah. Number 7, you should never pick a running back in the first round of the NFL draft.
False. Come on. You play enough fantasy football. I feel like you're setting me up like this was a trick question.
No, my boy, I love Mel Kiper. All right. Yeah. But that's my boy Mel Kiper's. That's one of his axioms. All right. No. Now, in recent years, he's added a caveat, and this I do agree with. Unless this guy scouts at a grade like an Adrian Peterson type of a grade, you do not take a running back in the first round. I do agree. I do agree with that.
Every year, there's a guy like Adrian Peterson every year. The dual threat running back.
I don't think every year. I don't think Josh Jacobs of Alabama is anything close to the grade Adrian Peterson had. Nothing close to that.
All right. Again, I'm absolutely.
Where was Le'Veon Bell picked?
Wait, hold on. I'm going to admit to just being completely brain dead this morning. I'm looking at this as you should never draft a running back in the first round of your NFL fantasy.
Oh, you were thinking fantasy. Well, now the audience knows we don't edit. Now they know.
Oh my God. I still don't agree with it, number one, because I think you're right. There isn't always an Adrian Peterson.
Like Todd Gurley graded as high as Adrian Peterson. I'm fine taking him. Alvin Kamara wasn't picked in the first round. Le'Veon Bell, not picked in the first round.
What was Marshall Faulk? What round was Marshall Faulk?
Marshall Faulk would have been graded as high as Adrian Peterson. He was a top 5 pick, yes. Right, yeah. Unless we're talking Barry Sanders, Marshall Faulk, Adrian Peterson, Todd Gurley, I don't think you pick a running back in the first round.
I agree. I think it seems to me in the last couple of years, the only legit locks are interior linemen on both sides of the football and game-changing defensive backs. I mean, as far as, hey, I'm going to put my money on this guy on the 3rd overall pick, and he's going to play 18 years. The Anthony Munoz.
You know my motto. You always put a premium on who can protect my passer, and who can pressure my passer or the passer. My drafting philosophy, if I was an NFL GM, it would be the 3 Ps. I got to have the right passer. I need to protect that passer, and I need to pressure that passer. Okay, and then the 4th would be if I've covered those bases with a franchise level player, then my 4th would be, and now I got to find playmakers for that passer. Yeah. Okay, that would be my drafting philosophy.
And if you get the right passer, like a Tom Brady, you realize you don't have to have the playmakers to.
That's why the passer's number one and the playmakers are number four. Yeah, because if I give Tom Brady 3.5 seconds to see the field, he's going to find a 4'9" lacrosse player open over the middle, guys. Okay?
I feel like that protecting and putting pressure on the quarterback is the foundation of every good team and great dynasty ever.
I would agree. Especially in the current era, maybe not so much in the 70s, 80s, where you could literally prison molest receivers. All right?
Yeah.
Like Lester Hayes could literally just go out there and reenact a scene from Oz. All right? Like he could add a BC people out there on the field. All right? That's why they had to wear stick-em and tearaway jerseys, because there were muggings taking place. And they called it one-on-one coverage. All right? Nowadays, though, the pendulum is, if I sneeze on a receiver past 5 yards, it's an automatic first down. Yeah.
Except for the Saints.
Saints. Where I can actually molest a receiver right there in front of two officials in the biggest game of the year. Second big yes. Yeah. And
I could push the receiver into the ref.
Yes.
In front of him in the final minute of the game and not have it affect me.
Number 8, Miguel Cabrera will hit more home runs this season than he has the last 2 seasons combined, 19.
Today, I'm going to say no. Today. I don't know how he showed up to camp this year. I haven't seen a lot of him early on. But I see a guy who physically is breaking down as a DH. And I understand that. It certainly happens. But and let me just be clear. I'm not rooting for this. I love the guy. Mm-hmm. I love him. Baseball is better with him. He's a laugher. He's a smiler. He's a guy you don't miss an at bat for, and that's changing. And I don't like that. I want him to come out and have a monster comeback player of the year, or I want him to say, you know what, I'm ready to walk away.
Number 9, social media has made sports worse. True or false? And by the way, I'm going to go false. I got to believe he can hit more than 19 home runs this year. Okay. But your view on social media has it made sports worse?
All right. I know I'm reading this question correctly, and I'm answering absolutely unequivocally, without a doubt, yes. Absolutely. No question. Because you've literally seen how the sausage is made in a lot of cases, and it's not. How many people have you heard say, wow, I'm really disappointed I got to know so-and-so because I grew up idolizing him? And I've been subject to a lot of that on Twitter as well. But people don't always want the truth. They want their heroes to remain mythological. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, professional athletes, we aren't. We're fallible. We make mistakes. We make bad decisions. We make bad choices. All those things you knew before, but Twitter just adds another level. I mean, A-Rod getting taken a picture in front of an elevator with a woman, and that immediately turns into an extramarital affair. I mean, how is that making sports better?
I'm going to say false, because to me, I acknowledge everything you just said, but for me, looking at it from the fan perspective, being on Twitter on a college football Saturday with all those games going on and sort of gathering together with fans around the country, or the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, or during the Final Four on a Super Bowl Sunday. Yep. Is just especially
there are some tremendous moments.
Yeah, that is. I can't even imagine what Twitter would have been like in your bloody sock game, for example, if we had it back then, because we didn't. Okay,
but see, I think you're.
But I think it's made athletes worse for all the reasons you just said.
Yeah,
and I think if we didn't have, what I think is the difference really between LeBron James and Michael Jordan, and I'm dead serious when I say this, Instagram, Twitter, that I'm not so sure. That I don't think the next generation's always terrible, worse than the other generation.
Well,
I think this generation, that's the thing. I think this generation of athletes is incentivized to become a larger brand than just a great player, unlike any other Michael Jordan, if he would have said in 2011 what he said in 1991, Republicans buy sneakers too. Can you imagine what social media would have done to him if he said that? Okay, It would have forced him just to get Pez dispenser 69 me off his back. Okay, we literally we had
outstanding screen.
Did you like that? We literally drove a porn star to suicide 2 years ago because she said she didn't want to perform with guys that also are in gay porn because they have lower testing standards. She was so harassed Okay, they drove her to killing herself over the weekend. If Michael Jordan would have said in 2011 or 2015, can you imagine what the Jamel Hills of the world would have done on SportsCenter and on Twitter if Michael Jordan said, "Well, Republicans buy sneakers too"? They'd have knifed him. They'd have forced him to change his gender to get back into their. Look at Martina Navratilova just in the last week as an example of what I'm talking about. But so I think it's made athletes worse more than sports worse.
I disagree in a sense. I think social media looks like a heartbeat when it comes to athletes. There are your peak moments, like you said, but everything else is negative. There are those peak moments where people share and crisscross sports and all the things, the videos that you see.
By the way, who are these social media mobs? You and I in our jobs have to travel. Anybody ever come up to you in an airport and said, "Hi, I'm with the Twitter mob"? You ever met that person ever?
No. If you've read Malcolm Gladwell's To the Tipping Point, yeah, that's the new tipping point arena is social media.
All right, lightning round. Roger Federer is the most dominant individual athlete of all time. True or false?
False.
I'm going to say false. True.
No,
11.
Next guy is.
Tiger Woods will win a major this year.
True, and I believe he was the most dominant athlete of all time.
I'm going to say false, and I say that acknowledging I think he's back, but I think the rest of the field is just so strong. Finally, Tampa Bay Lightning will not win the Stanley Cup.
False.
I'm going to say true because I've been there as a Red Wings fan where you dominate the regular season and then don't win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it might be one of the best teams of all time.
Curt, we'll see you tomorrow right here on The Blaze, brother. Take care.
All right, buddy. Take care.